Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Ambassador Ruben Brigady, and I'm the Dean of George Washington University's Elliott School of International Affairs. And I hope, like me, you are equally impressed and excited by all these amazing presentations that you just saw. I have no doubt that we will be hearing from many of these young people in the future. It is my pleasure to welcome GW faculty, alumni, students to this evening as we present the 2016 Distinguished Entrepreneurial Achievement Award. The Distinguished Entrepreneurial Achievement Award is an annual award of recognition given by the GW Entrepreneurs Roundtable and the Office of Entrepreneurship to individuals who have attained notable achievements and success in the field of entrepreneurship. I would like to extend an especially warm welcome to our esteemed guest and award recipient this evening, Mr. Fadi Ghandour. I am proud to call Mr. Ghandour a George Washington University alumnus, and he is an exceptional individual who truly merits this award. Mr. Ghandour is the founder and former CEO of Aramex International, a company he established in 1982 and built from a scrappy startup to a global shipping giant. Along the way, Aramex became known as the FedEx of the Middle East, and Mr. Ghandour became an internationally recognized entrepreneur and thought leader. Since stepping down in 2002 as CEO, he has dedicated himself to strengthening civil society in the Middle East by supporting entrepreneurship and civic engagement. Mr. Ghandour grew up in Beirut, Lebanon, and in Amman, Jordan. He graduated from GW's Columbian College of Arts and Sciences in 1981 with a BA in political science. He was just 22 years old when he founded Aramex in Amman, partnering with a family friend. One could almost see him here on this stage some 35 years ago, and often wonder how many of the young people we saw this evening will be a future Fadi Ghandour. Over the next 3 decades, Mr. Ghandour took the company from its early days as a tiny company in an unsettled region through 2 IPOs to its current position as an industry leader based in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. In 1997, Aramex was the first company in the Arab world to go public on the NASDAQ stock exchange. The firm today employs roughly 14,000 people, has operations in more than 60 countries, and trades on the Dubai Stock Exchange at a market capitalization of $1.3 billion. An incredible accomplishment and a true testament to the perseverance and dedication of Mr. Ghandour. As CEO of Aramex for 30 years, Mr. Ghandour demonstrated a capacity that only a select few of entrepreneurs can claim: the ability to lead a company to success at every stage of growth, from startup to scale up to industry giant. Early on, as a very young man, he uncovered and tapped into a market niche to establish the first private shipping service in a region where civil conflict and government bureaucracy created enormous challenges. Through dedication, determination, a willingness to take calculated risks, and just sheer hard work, Mr. Ghandour got the company up and running, sometimes delivering packages himself, often struggling to pay the bills, and keeping Aramex afloat through all the unrest that this region has endured. Currently, Mr. Ghandour is executive chairman of Wamda Capital, a new venture capital fund focusing on technology investments in the Arab world. And since stepping down as CEO, Mr. Ghandour has turned to promoting entrepreneurship as broadly and as feasibly as possible in order to strengthen civil society in the MENA region. Through a fund called MENA Ventures, he has invested in some 75 early-stage startups with substantial growth potential in the Middle East and North Africa and beyond. In a part of the world where citizens have historically looked to the government for employment, Mr. Ghandour's efforts are especially innovative. Mr. Ghandour also dedicates his days to Ruwad for development, a community network he established while still at the helm of Aramex. Ruad, which operates in several countries in the Middle East, offers job training and lessons in civic engagement to those living in marginalized communities. The network also provides college scholarships benefiting more than 1,400 young people to date. In return, scholarship recipients volunteer their time at Ruad's community centers. At GW, Mr. Ghandour provided philanthropic support to establish the Aramex GW Student Fund in 2011. Grants to Elliott School graduate students focused on Middle East studies allow them to serve as volunteers with non-governmental organizations in Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, the West Bank, and in other countries in the region. Working alongside community activists and social entrepreneurs for a summer, students enhance their cultural understanding, hone language skills, and prepare for careers in our increasingly globalized society. It is obvious and clear that here before us we have not only a successful business person, but a global citizen and a true humanitarian. And it is thus with great pleasure that I present the 2016 Distinguished Entrepreneur Achievement Award to Mr. Fadi Ghandour. Congratulations.
Just grab a picture.
Shall we go there?
Should we go here? Sure.
Wow, that was an incredible introduction and such an incredible honor for me to stand here, and thank you, Dean Brigety, for this really generous introduction. I am more than honored to come back here to GW. But let me start by saying I am proof that a C student can actually win an award. So I am, in reality, the quintessential C student, and that's why I had so much fun at GW. And I did. So, but it also taught me a lot of things. I have fantastic memories here. This is an incredible institution. This was, when I came to, in 1977, as a freshman student to GW, it was my first trip to the United States. So GW is where I learned a lot of things, where I got introduced to this incredible country of yours, and a lot of the habits that I had as I was building my career started here, started at GW with the traditions that were relatively new to me when I came here. So, but the first ideas of establishing my business, Aramex, came from GW. This is where I got introduced to the name of FedEx. And this is where I thought maybe we could do something like this in the Middle East to conquer the lazy and dysfunctional postal services over there, just like FedEx was doing here. So, this is where the formative years of my thinking came through. And this is where the entrepreneurship thinking comes into how I build my character, if you want. So, obviously, being at the Colombian school, I did not go to business school. So you don't really have to go to business school to become an entrepreneur. In fact, probably you really shouldn't go to business school if you are an entrepreneur. I'm sorry, I'm sure there are business school students here, but that's me saying this. I learned here several things that all entrepreneurs have and should have. I learned the value of knowledge and the value of continuous learning. People and entrepreneurs have to continuously feel that there isn't enough knowledge that they have so that they continue to be able to build their businesses or to become serial entrepreneurs, or to continuously feel that there is improvement that needs to be done. And you can only do that through learning and continuous learning. I also learned here the concept of critical thinking. I come from an education system that is completely rote learning. So coming here, it was a shocker in my early days. Critical thinking, I have to ask questions. I have to question. You can even question the professor. That was a concept that was alien to me. How can you question people that were sitting in class were questioning the professor? I said, oh boy, that's really learning to be rebellious. So independent thinking, critically, for any entrepreneur. You need to think independently. You need to refuse the status quo all the time. And being a student here in GW, I also understood how to fight for a cause and to refuse the status quo, and how to actually bring the knowledge that you need to have so that you can defend that cause. What do I mean by that? When I first came to campus, obviously I come from the Middle East. I am passionate about the causes of the Middle East, and I suddenly found that there were many opposing ideas around campus. People like us coming out of schools, you would think your cause is very just and it sells itself. You don't really need to fight for it. But coming to GW, oh boy, I discovered that I needed to do much more than that. I needed to fight for the cause, I needed to learn more about it, and I needed to fight it with facts, not only emotion. As much as passion matters, facts matter as much, and the combination of both becomes extremely important. So political activism, I also learned here at the political science department. This is how I understood the world. This is how I also appreciated and embraced diversity. This was my first exposure to international students. It's my first exposure to even Arab students. Living in Jordan and growing up in Jordan, we didn't get exposed to our fellow Arabs except when we came to university here at GW. So it was incredible. Embracing diversity, appreciating different cultures are so essential for anyone building a business today in a globalized world, in a borderless world, in a world that is completely connected, obviously, through the internet. So I have deep and emotional memories here at GW, and I appreciate very much that GW remembered me, and I'm honored, and thank you very much for that. But coming from the Middle East, I cannot resist but talk a little bit about the Middle East for you, because being in Washington, D.C., I need to tell you a story that you don't read in the news, and you certainly don't hear from your politicians here in Washington, D.C. You will only hear, obviously, about terrorism, about political turmoil, about revolutions, about failed states, about all sorts of stuff. That is not the reality of the Middle East. There are problems, and we have deep problems, and we have to address these deep problems, and we cannot leave them to fester. But the Middle East is 400 million people, and most of the countries in the Middle East and most of the people in the Middle East, the overwhelming majority of the people of them in the Middle East, are actually going out doing their business, living their lives just like you do here in Washington, D.C. We are worried about ISIS. We are worried about terror. But we don't feel it every single day in our lives. And if you read the newspapers that you read here, you would think we are in constant civil wars and constant killing across the region. That's not a fact. Let me tell you what's really disrupting the Middle East today. The disruption of the Middle East is the digital economy. It's the knowledge economy, and it is the internet that has come to be embraced by every single person in the region. The Middle East is 65% under the age of 25. 65% under the age of 25. Some people call it the youth bulge. I call it the youth dividend, the youth opportunity. Countries kill for having a youthful population. And we have a youthful population that is educated, relatively educated. They are connected. They are going out. And there's an explosion today. There's an exponential growth of businesses, just like the startups that you were listening to today. I'm in the business of investing in these startups in early stage, and there isn't a day where I don't meet at least 3 new companies coming out from the region. At least 3 new companies. And I'm only one of the funds that have popped up in the region. Let me give you some statistics so that you get a feel of things, and I'll let you be so that we can leave our young students to receive their awards. There are 140 million Arabs on Facebook today. 120 million of them are active. That is about 11% of the Facebook population today. That is double the size of the population of the Middle East in general as in relation to the global population. It means there is an activist presence on Facebook today. They are interacting, they are talking to each other, they are passionate about many issues, and they are extremely candid in their propositions. So when we say we have the challenge of democracy in the Middle East, I say if you don't read Facebook and if you don't get on Twitter, you will not know what's happening in the Middle East. Let me give you a statistic you rarely hear about or never hear about. Saudi Arabia, a country that everybody talks about nowadays here in Washington, D.C., has the highest YouTube viewership per capita in the world today. Why am I saying that? Why is it important that I say that there is viewership on YouTube today in Saudi Arabia? Because there is an alternative way. And they view, by the way, most of the views, before I say that, they watch cultural, they watch comedy, and they don't necessarily, because everybody talks about the social media influence of ISIS, I tell you people are listening to something else. Something else. A billion views a month. And they mostly watch a company called U-Turn. It's the new startup in Saudi Arabia, and U-Turn is a comedy YouTube show. It's a comedy YouTube show. They don't talk about terrorism. They talk about something else that keeps people doing something else. It's important that we hear that. The highest tweeters per capita in the world are Saudis also. And what do they talk about? They talk about their local challenges, their local economic challenges, their local cultural challenges. All the issues that they care about is out there. So there is an alternative way of addressing the issues. So we don't need to take these stereotypes and stick them in our minds about these countries. Yes, we have the challenges, but there are also a lot of positive things that are happening in that region. The region has companies that are already unicorns. Unicorn is a concept that came out from the US, from Silicon Valley, companies that have hit $1 billion in their valuation. Souk.com, Souk in Arabic means marketplace, just last month announced that they hit that level, and they are the Amazon of the Middle East today. They are growing and growing tremendously, and there is online buying. There's a company called Careem in the Middle East that is competing with Uber and actually beating it in its marketplaces. So Uber, as big as it is, as dominant as it is, you're going to hear about it all the time, but you're not going to hear about Careem, a company that started out of Dubai and is actually growing exponentially on a 25% month over month. There is also a company that's called Instabit. It's a Lebanese young woman entrepreneur, which is changing the way your goggles operate when you are swimming. So it's Internet of Things. It's connected to the internet. It tells you everything that you do. And she is producing now her goggles out of China. And she moved from Beirut to Palo Alto in San Francisco. And then there's a company called Jamalon, which is disrupting the book-selling business and the publishing business across the region. This is just an example of the companies that are popping out in the region. It's very entrepreneurial. Things are changing in the region, and we are actively and positively participating in the global economy today. This is the last thing that I need you to remember about the region. It's a vibrant region, and lots of positive things are happening out there, and I am just part and parcel of that ecosystem that is happening today. I thank you very much for listening to me. I thank you very much for honoring me. It is an incredible honor to be here with you at GW. Thank you.